Hey everybody, it is Monday the 6th and time to take a look at our stocks. For newer subscribers, I would suggest you take a couple days, maybe a week or two, to kind of figure out what the program is all about before getting involved in any of these stocks. I know that there's always an urge to jump right in, but you're probably better served just to observe for a little while and get some of the nuances of the service before you get involved. And that said, we do have a webinar a week from tonight, and that's a great opportunity to observe this week and ask questions to get some better guidance about how to use this service properly. So NAT, if you're involved here, and I'll always say if you're involved, I'm never going to say we bought it at this or that, because sometimes I buy these, sometimes I don't. Sometimes you might buy them, or sometimes you don't. No one should be doing the same exact thing. I give guidance and provide the logic for a stock idea, and then it's up to you to decide, hey, I like that one or I don't like that one. It's not about taking every single trade, and a lot of times you'll take the worst trades and miss the best trades, and that's just how it happens. But sometimes you'll take the best trades and miss the worst ones. That's part of trading. If you're involved in NAT at 472, we're looking to take a third off, up above 480, really above that break high, so above 483. So we always like to sell a little bit on a breakout. We like to sell a third early on in the move just to reduce our risk in case we get stopped out of the balance. So looking to sell a third above 483, and the stop remains 453. And I will often suggest a stop such as 453, and I might say here's an alternative stop. If you want to keep a tighter stop, this is technically the higher low at 461, so you might want to put your stop at 459. Maybe you want to stagger your stop, half at 459, half at 453. For the simplicity of just reporting, and I don't keep an official track record, I will use 453 as our initial stop. If the stock starts to rally and we get to take some off tomorrow, it's highly likely this will become the new stop in the midday video. Ions, I think that we've seen the pullback that we were looking for. So now that it's pulled back a little bit from the daily VWAP and the VWAP from right here, this is clearly the level that it needs to get above. And that peak right there intraday today was 46.63. If it gets above 46.63, I think you can buy it with a stop under here. This is the most recent relevant low, and ideally it doesn't break that. So if it breaks that first, then we don't have a higher low. If instead it pulls back a little bit more and then breaks that, well, then we have a higher low, or this is the higher low. The point is we want to buy it above 46.63 with a stop under here. If it breaks that stop level first of 45.85, then it invalidates the trade. It's a completely different setup, and we don't want to take it. The reason for that is, let's say it goes down to $45.80, then runs all the way up through there. It'll be extended at that point. The risk reward is different. That's not the trade we're talking about. So again, I'll point out these nuances about the entries, and you should be very comfortable with them after a little while. And on the spreadsheet, you'll see that those guidelines are there as well. What I suggest everyone does is print those out, be familiar with them, and understand the guidelines of the trades. If you got involved in Urban at 35.70, we did take a loss of 30 cents per share as it undercut that low. Now keep in mind, that was only a third of the original risk that we were looking at. Originally, we were looking at a stop of 34.80. I raised that stop under here, and instead of losing 90 cents, we only lost 30 cents. So if you were looking at it that way, then it should have been a very small loss in relation to your position size. For tomorrow, the ideas that I like best, the two that I like best are GPRE on the short side. Here's our weekly chart. We've spoken about this before and outlined this, that over time, I think this is likely to happen, something like this. Now, how much time is anyone's guess? And this isn't a time frame that Alpha Trends talks about. I'm just kind of saying we're looking for a swing trade within something that might happen like this. I know I have no idea about the fundamentals of this company, and I'm not here to update a stock for the next 6 to 9 months. This is a swing trade service. So if you look at it from a different time frame, and you're encouraged to do so if that's the case, then make the trade your own for that time frame. For a swing trade perspective, what we're looking at is we had seen this prior band of support broken and holding as resistance, and then the company reported earnings. Well, people got irrational and chased the stock on a gap higher. And those people who bought it just based on the headlines right at the 200-day moving average as well, with a declining 50-day moving average. I think they basically got what they deserved to lose their money for chasing it. But from then, we've seen there's the anchor from that point. Now that's acting as supply. We've got a declining 5-day moving average, so there's no way I would go near this stock on the long side. It's a short sale, in my opinion, if it gets below this little low right here. We don't need to see it undercut today's low, I don't think. Instead, just underneath this low. If it gets below 27.72, I think it can be shorted with a stop up here at $28.35 per share, just above that little peak yesterday, or I'm sorry, I guess that was Friday afternoon. If you wanted to give it more room, maybe you put your stop up here. No one's telling you what to do, just giving you the logic for it. If you place your stop here instead of here, well, then you should obviously trade less shares because your risk, your dollar risk amount is what we're trying to keep the same. Northrop Grumman, this one had been in a downtrend, and to a lot of people's surprise, with the war going on in Ukraine, now the Israel stuff has this. Shouldn't call it stuff, but the Israeli what's going on over there has gotten people back interested, I guess, in the defense stocks. We now have the stock above the 10, 20, 30, 40 week moving averages. This had been a previous important level, not precisely, but this area in here has been resistance over here and here. Now, if it seems like it's holding in here, then perhaps this one can get going again. Now, on the daily time frame, you see it was up on big volume, and here's the anchor from that event. So that is still overhead, and that was perfect resistance right there. We've also got the anchor from the high, which is also just overhead. Now, what to me is more important is that the 5-day moving average is flattened out, and if we can get above this little high right here, 474.53. If it gets above that high right there, I think that will signal the higher high. This ideally is the higher low. So our stop would go underneath here. This is $469.65. So if it makes a higher high, and ideally, let's look at a shorter term time frame. Let's look at a 15-minute time frame. You can see it pulled back down to the 5-day moving average here late in the day. So that's a good thing. And this is the level we're buying above, by the way, 474.53. Is that what I said? Yeah, right here. So if we buy it above there with a stop under here. Now, what if tomorrow morning it opens a little bit lower and does this? Well, again, it's a different trade. What I would prefer is that I wouldn't want to buy it here if it moves like that, because that would be too far extended. Instead, I'd still keep it on the back burner and hope that maybe it does this. Or if it pulls back first thing in the morning and rallies up, it puts in a higher low first like this, then we could reasonably put our stop under there or here. Bottom line is, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow morning. We have to be aware that the anchor from that peak is overhead. It's likely to be easily overtaken because of the bigger picture. So it's a balancing act. It's not about the perfect setup, because the perfect setup often doesn't exist. So GPRE and NOC are the ones I like best for tomorrow. Other names to keep an eye on that aren't quite set up as nicely: ACLS. Hopefully you look at this one. You see it's below declining 20 and 50-day moving average. So you would never think about buying this stock long. Here's our anchor from this low. That's been broken. It had held there, and now we're kind of building this little bearish flag underneath it. So I didn't mean to draw with that, but it makes the point anyways. Now, it's likely a day or two early, so it cradled the 5-day moving average today. Maybe it does this tomorrow. It comes back down and then gets trapped below that 5-day moving average, let's say on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. So we're anticipating, and it's for learning, and it's for understanding how to look at stocks, not so that you're chasing things. That's one of the things I see people do most often, is chase a stock like ASPN. You have to look at it and say, it just came from 725 to 925. That's a 25% move. So this stock, it's easy to look at and say, hey, maybe if it gets above there, I'll buy it with a stop under here. What I look at it and see instead is, yeah, the 200-day moving average is still declining. The weekly time frame, if you look in here, if they didn't scare you out, they wore you out, and now maybe it's getting ready for a longer-term move, and you're looking at it all excitedly thinking, well, it's going back to that high. Well, it's got a lot of work to do before it's capable of doing something like that. So what we want to look at is what's more likely. Maybe it breaks that high, flushes people out, and then comes back in and does this. You'll see that that's what I look for a lot, is a failed move. It comes down maybe to the 5-day moving average, which is still rising. We shake people out. We get shorts involved. Then it comes back up. So just keep an eye on that and learn to start to anticipate how stocks trade. Stocks like IMGN. Now, this is a biotech stock, so I always take these kind of with a grain of salt, thinking that if you look at their histories over the longer term, they have a lot of false moves and sharp breakdowns. So you could have easily made a very bullish case for the stock somewhere over here or even over here and in here. But there's these large breakdowns that occur on a very regular basis. So understand the risk in the personality of the stock. So on the daily time frame, we've got that 50-day moving average just flattening out, the 20-day curling up under it. We've got good volume, 7 million shares on average. And by the way, on all the charts, the earnings date is always right here. So I put that on there so you can see it. The 20-day average volume, we're looking for at least 500,000 shares per day. This may have been a little bit of shakeout in here, but I think it still needs a couple more days. I don't really like trading these biotechs so much because they are more volatile. And if I trade them with smaller share size. So it's had a good run, 12.5. And here's how you have to look at it. In the last month, it's gone from 12.5 to 16.5, 4 points on a $12 stock. Do the math. That's 30%. I think it's probably going to need to do more of this before it's likely to sustain a move. INFA is another one. It's still early in there. It's got a good looking weekly chart. It's got room to run, but on the daily time frame, it tells me keep an eye on it, let it settle down, not quite ready yet. RHI, this one on the weekly chart, it's still stuck in a range. Somebody asked me about that, which is why I brought it up. It's not really something to watch so much. SMAR, when you look at this weekly chart, because we're on this weekly time frame, what you should notice is, well, it looks like it's in a range, but what's the direction of the 10, 20, 30, 40-week moving average? All of them, it is lower. So that tells me guilty till proven innocent, meaning it's more likely that we sucked in longs over here who are about to get hit hard, and this is a good candidate for a short sale. Now, if we look at the stock over the last week and a half, we've had a move from 37.5 to 40, back to 37.5, back to 40, 38.5, 40, 37.5. So it needs to calm down unless you want to short it under here with a stop way up under there, way up above there rather. I'd rather see it do this and then maybe short it under here with a stop above this high rather than above that high. So again, it's about anticipating, and maybe these trades never trigger, but meanwhile, it doesn't cost us anything to watch them and try to learn and anticipate. VRNS, I still don't know how to trade this one yet. I've got my eye on it. I don't necessarily want to buy it above here with a stop under there, but it's a possibility. So I'm just going to say keep an eye on it if it's of interest because it's still got that great looking weekly chart.